HomeCast is a member of the Punchbowl Network family of shows, which also includes Punchbowl Town Square with Bishop and the Jeffs every weekday morning starting at 8 a.m. Eastern. And be sure to check us out at thepunchbowl.space, Discord, and now on Spotify, Rumble, and YouTube. Please follow your hosts and co-hosts, including the Punchbowl TM account. You'll find them in the room, so you never miss a space notification from your Punchbowl family. I am your host with more than 3 decades in horticulture, Kevin M. Nelson, and tonight back in Control Room 2 at co-host from an undisclosed location, we have that beautiful broccoli with the laser-focused eyes, Webmeister. He'll actually be part of tonight's episode, whether he likes it or not. Before we get too far, if you haven't already done so, please like and retweet the space. You can do that by going down to the chat bubble at the bottom and tapping that. That will bring up the space notification, and you can simply tap the heart and repost button or do a quote and say something funny to gently coerce all of your friends to come and join us. That is a free and very easy way to help out all of the spaces you attend, as it helps the host get the space out into the X space, or the Twitter sphere, or whatever you're calling it these days, so others can join us or to listen to the recorded space later. As always, if free is too cheap for you, even in this economy, many hosts and co-hosts also have a tip jar, little cash icon at the top of their profile, where you can drop your loose change, or more if you're feeling generous, via Cash App or Venmo. Both are secure and easy methods to show your support for what I'm doing here every Tuesday night. There's also a link to a Teespring store on my profile where you can find some fun items, and be sure to hit up Town Square co-host Real Jeff Platt's profile and get your copy of the Punchbowl Cookbook or the Punchbowl Bingo cards for just $2. That's typically less than the cost of your child's first hour in college. Yes, I did the math. Lastly, our weekly housekeeping. Make sure if you're going to dig or apply any fertilizers or pesticides, you follow all of the directions on the labeling and in accordance with federal, state, and local laws. Don't get sued. Each episode will run about an hour or so, mostly in presentation format for the first 30 minutes, and the topic may be anything from growing ornamentals or vegetables to pests, taxonomy, propagation, and garden design. Then we will open it up to questions and comments before we move to our new segment called Gardener's Community. Your chance to bring other questions, ideas, or to share with the audience what successes or failures you may be experiencing in your garden this season. And then finally, we end the night with arguably the best part of the show, trivia, where I'll test your knowledge on this and previous episodes and possibly plants in general. Just try to be the first to raise your hand after the full question has been asked and give the right answer or the funniest, most ridiculous answer of the night. Nothing in the nest. Oh, that's the upper deck, I guess we're calling it now, or the X-hole, as our friend AC Truth likes to call it. Nothing in the upper deck without approval, no locked or questionable accounts as speakers, and we will not be entertaining any breaking news unless someone or something is in imminent danger. And before I get to the last part, I forgot to mention Tap's Locals. Our IT genius here at the Punchbowl is Tap for Nerd. He's up there on stage. Go to his profile. Please sign up for his Locals. You can do the free option, and that still helps him out, or you can pay, I believe it's as little as $5. And he's going to be putting out some really awesome stuff. If IT is your thing, maybe you're intimidated by it like I am, he will show you and discuss all of that IT stuff and Chat GPT and all that stuff that makes my head spin, but it's useful information. So please go to his profile, click on that link, and go to his Locals. And now, are you ready? Let's turn those thumbs green. So we are on ABCs of Plants, Installment 2, all about bees. Not the ones with stingers, of course, but the plants that start with the letter B. In episode 19, we were on the letter A. We began with annuals, so I thought it would be fitting to start tonight with biennials. Oh, and we have our first hand. Go ahead, Ultra.
Or in the bees. I'm sorry. But why are there two webmasters? Not that I can never enough.
Twins.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's even better. Double the love. Okay, I'm sorry. I'll shut up.
It's okay. You know, tonight is about the bees, and we will get to it. But Brassica oleracea includes your broccoli. So both the scientific name and the common name start with B. So how fitting that we have two broccolis in the room tonight. So I was going to start with biennials because we started A with annuals. Unfortunately, the only two B biennials I could find include one of that most grow as an annual. So most people don't even grow it as a biennial, and then they eat it, and that would be beets or beetroot, Beta vulgaris. Beets are nutritious root vegetables high in antioxidants that, in my opinion, taste like dirt, but no shame for you if you like them. My wife is actually quite fond of pickled beets. If they overwinter properly, beets will flower in their second year, and you can collect seeds to grow more the following spring. So if you like to eat vegetables that taste like dirt, get seeds and grow some more. Sorry, I throw in my bias once in a while. I am not a fan of beets. And the other biennial, or another one grown as an annual, Bellis perennis, or English daisy, that is hardy to zone 4 through 8. So those are your biennials / grow as an annual. We will get to more annuals in just a second. But before we do that, we'll move on to perennials. And so let me rewind before we go any further. So you might be new to the space and you might be like, why are we just like rattling off plants that begin with the same letter? Good question. So all I'm trying to do in these every other week episodes is just to familiarize you with more and more plants. I'll post photos if I can. You know, you'll see some photos up in the upper deck tonight of some of these. But that way you're learning the plants. You might be familiar with them under the common name, but we'll talk about, you know, where they're hardy to or all that fun stuff. So it's just a fun way every other week to discuss plants that begin with a certain letter, and hopefully you get something out of it. So with that, we move right along to perennials. First of which being Bambusa multiplex. Anybody on stage, can you guess what Bambusa is? Anyone? Webmeister.
Bamboo.
That would be correct. Yes, bamboo is a perennial, but in zone 7 to 10. So if you're up here in the Northeast, you're not going to want to plant this one in your yard. Otherwise, it would need to be grown as an annual up here or brought indoors with a super high ceiling because they can grow as high as 25 feet tall. I'm told in tropical areas you can actually sit there and watch them grow. Webmeister.
Yes, I can confirm, and not even tropical, just in the south. I had a patch of bamboo at the back of my yard, and it would grow probably 6 to 12 inches a day. It was insane. And dads would bring their kids in to ask if they can chop some down and use them for cane fishing poles.
Sweet. That is awesome. Ultra.
Bananas. Down here, they grow everywhere. I'm just saying. I know it's not a veggie.
And although you will find one spot tonight where I cheat a little bit, we're going by the scientific name. And bananas, I believe, are Musa or Ananas, or I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. But bananas would not qualify tonight under the common name. But thank you. I hear you can like cook stuff in banana leaves too. But I digress. Sun to part shade on your bamboo. And there are some plants that are called dragon head clumping bamboo, and those are hardy to zone 5, but those are actually Fargacia rufa, not Bambusa. So it is a different type that people call bamboo, but we're going to leave that one out tonight because maybe we'll talk about that one when we get to the Fs. Next up for perennials, we have Baptisia or Baptisia, however you choose to pronounce it, australis. There's other kinds, but For each of these scientific names, I'm just picking one particular species in most cases. Baptisia australis is false indigo. It's a clump-forming flowering perennial, zone 4 to 9, likes part sun to full sun, and grows up to 4 feet tall and wide with flowers in May or June. You'll notice in the upper deck, I have a photo of Baptisia coming up out of the ground. And then I have some that has already gone to seed pod. I did not have a good photo of it in flower, but if you pick your favorite search engine and look up Baptisia or Baptisia, Baptisia, you can see what that looks like in flower. And they are quite pretty. They do come in multiple colors these days. You can get yellow, purple. I think there's some that are a little pinky, but they will, once they're established, that sucker, every year it'll die down to the ground, and then it'll grow up to be this big round 4x4 ball of plant that will have some beautiful flowers every year. Next up, we have Bergenia cordifolia, or winter glut, also called pig squeak is the common name. Don't ask me why. It's a glossy-leaved flowering perennial, zone 4 to 8. It likes sun to part shade and grows 12 to 18 inches tall and wide. Rose-colored flower clusters appear in April through May, and it attracts butterflies. Also, I believe in the upper deck, we have a photo of this one, maybe even with a little friend on it, Baltonia asteroides. Variety is Lattisquama. The common name for that is false aster. If you look at the flower in that photo, it looks very similar to an aster. Those are zone 4 to 8, and they flower late summer through fall in lavender or white. Side note, when you see OIDES or oides at the end of a scientific name, it essentially means like similar to. So you'll see some species will be jasminoides. That just means that it has similar characteristics to jasmine. Webb, were you stretching?
No, I picked it up. I thought you said asteroids. I was
No.
confused.
It's very similar, but it's asteroides. Now you got me wondering the correct spelling of asteroid, but I think there's an extra E in there that throws it all off. So just think of aster.
Just not Hemmer.
So, what's that?
Just not Hemmer.
No, not hemorrhoides, asteroids. Wow, the fun has already begun tonight, and we haven't even gotten to the trivia portion. This would be a good time to use that other broccoli as a good example. So, up on the stage as my co-host, I have Webmeister. If our friend Carl Linnaeus from back in 1735 was here, he might say that other Webmeister down below is not the real Webmeister, but he looks very similar. So he might call him Webmeisteroides. So that's a good way to remember it. If you hear oides in a scientific name, essentially, and I'm sure that the translation is just something more specific, but just think of similar to, and then you'll know how it got its name. Next up, Brunera or Brunera. I hear people pronounce these things so many different ways. I don't even know the right way anymore, but I call it Brunera macrophylla or Siberian bug loss. Again, don't know how it got that common name. Jack Frost is the variety shown up in the upper deck. It's a very hardy perennial, zone 3 to 8, and loves part shade to mostly shady locations. Gets white, heart-shaped leaves with green veins, bearing light blue flowers in May through June. So if you need a little bit of bright white with some blue flowers for that shade garden, if you get a little woodland garden going on, Brunera would be a good option for that. Next up, Buddleia davidii, or butterfly bush, not to be confused with our Asclepias from 2 weeks ago, which is butterfly weed. Butterfly bush is hardy zone 5 to 9, and it will grow 3 to 4 feet high and 2 to 3 feet wide. Buddleia is a deciduous perennial shrub that gets elongated panicle clusters of white, pink, red, magenta, or purple blue. So butterflies love that one. There are some that will grow about knee high. There are also some newer varieties that are like 6 feet tall. Some, I have one on a stone wall. It's very slow growing this year, but there's some really great cascading varieties as well. And that takes us to annuals. Again, there are so many. Every time we do a letter, there's going to be so many plants that you'd be like, oh, why didn't you do that one? I'm trying to fine tune this because the potential is limitless on the number of plants we could come up with that start with a certain letter. So I am trying to pare it down and just kind of highlight some of the more common, some of my favorites, of course, because I can do that. I'm the host. And that way we, keep everything on a schedule. So I had told Ultra that we were going by Latin names and that somewhere tonight I would cheat. We have gotten there. In annuals, there is Bacopa. The problem is the Latin name for that is Sutera cordata. I put it in here because Bacopa it doesn't have another common name. Everybody pretty much knows it as Bacopa. So I thought it would be fitting to squeeze that one into the B's tonight. So that one it's an annual. So it's only hardy zone 9 to 10. It's a mounding trailing annual that comes in pink, white, or blue and grows 6 to 8 inches high by 12 to 18 inch spread. You'll often see this as a spiller plant in containers or part of mixed hanging baskets. They attract bees and butterflies. And I think there is a photo of that in the upper deck as well. Then we have a whole slew of begonias, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on each one. We'll start with Begonia X tuber hybrida, tuberous or nonstop begonias. They are an annual, part sun. Flowers come in white, red, yellow, pink, peach, and bicolor. Those actually like it a little shady versus other annual hybrids like wax begonias, which you can put out in full sun. Those are the more traditional annual begonias before some of these fancier varieties came along. Other begonia hybrids include dragon or angel wing begonia, Riger begonias, and a great foliage begonia for warm shade gardens or as a house plant. We have Rex begonias. So those are the ones that sometimes you'll see them as a house plant, and they can be green or silver. There's a lot of new colors now where there's lots of red mixed in the foliage. They usually have hairy stems. So if you've got a bright filtered window and you want something that kind of looks prehistoric, get some ferns and get some Rex begonia. So the next one, and this one, because of my political leanings, I'm not fond of, but it is common, so it's only fair that I mention it, and that is Biden's ferulifolia. Yes, that is a plant, and there's other Biden's hybrid types. Biden's is a zone 9 to 11 annual, full sun, 8 to 10 inches high and 8 to 10 inches wide is the growth habit on that. They come in yellow, orange, white, pink, and bicolor varieties. Yes, I agree, Ultra, 100%. It is a cool little daisy-looking flower with lacy foliage, but I like trumpet plants better. Just saying. Okay, tropicals, bougainvillea. That's a woody, thorny, vining shrub with papery bracts. Sometimes you'll hear bracts or sepals. That just means that it's not the true flower. The true flower of the bougainvillea is inside those papery bracts. They're thin little tubes. Those come in white, golden yellow, orange, red, pink, purple, or magenta. And again, those bracts surround those skinny little flowers on the inside. Another one that is probably more popular around in the South and in Mexico, et cetera, because those do like it very warm. Next in tropicals, we have Brugmansia, or Angel's Trumpet. Very similar to Datura, or Devil's Trumpet, in appearance. It's a large pendulous trumpet-like bloom, and they come in pink, peach, white, purple, or yellow. And rounding out our tropicals, we have a whole plant family, bromeliads, none of which start with the letter B in their scientific name. But since the family does, I'll mention bromeliads. They include great houseplants like Acmea, Cryptanthus, Tillandsia. Tillandsia includes those air plants they sell on driftwood and seashells. And Tillandsia also includes Spanish moss. Pineapples are also bromeliads. And then we move on to trees and shrubs. There was not a whole lot I wanted to get into on trees and shrubs, but I did want to highlight a couple in the birch family. So we have Betula jacomontii, white-barked Himalayan birch. Those are hardy zone 5 to 7. They grow 30 to 40 feet high and are 18 to 20 feet wide at maturity. They're prized for their bright white bark, and the bark exfoliates, a little different than the other white birch. Dark green leaves in spring and golden yellow leaves in autumn. Part sun to full sun on those. Not to be confused with the slightly more common New England native Betula papyrifera, say that 10 times fast, white birch or paper birch, which is more hardy at zone 2 to 7 and growing 50 to 70 feet high and 25 to 50 feet wide. Other betulas include sweet birch, swamp birch, and river birch, among others. And rounding out the trees and shrubs, we have Buxus, which is boxwood. Buxus is a genus of shrubs commonly used as hedges or foundation plantings. Buxus microphylla, variety Koreana, is Korean or little leaf boxwood. Winter gem is one variety, 3 to 4 foot max height with a width of also 3 to 4 feet. That is hardy to zone 4. They like full sun. And then we have Buxus sempervirens, or Safruticosa is a good variety on that, and that is just common boxwood. Those are not quite as hardy. Those are hardy to zone 5, and they like full sun to part shade and will grow 3 to 4 feet high and 5 to 6 feet wide. So we probably could have squeezed in a few more there, but we are just about at the 30-minute mark. So any questions or comments on all of our bees before we go into Gardener's Community? At which time I would like to invite, we've got some great hosts of some other gardening spaces in the room. So again, just like some of you did last week, feel free to grab a mic, come up, plug your space. When is it? What do you talk about? All that fun stuff. And yeah, there'll be a lot more C's than B's, I can tell you that, because I was at like 8 pages when I was writing for the C episode in a couple of weeks, and that was before I even got to the trivia questions. So that's where we are. Those are your B's and Gardener's Community. I don't have a lot to report on my end. I got to get some more feed on the cucumbers because those are starting to come on really well. And the leaves are turning yellow, which tells me, oh, they're getting hungry. They're putting a lot of effort into producing those cucumbers. Why are you crying, Webb?
Because your cucumbers are doing well.
Oh, yeah. Webb, why don't you share with the group about your cucumbers?
They're dead.
I wanted to sip my coffee. I was hoping you would drag that out a little longer.
You caught me at the end of a sneezing fit. There were 9 in a row sneezes, for those who have those fits and count. That one was 9. Hang on. Okay. No, I planted too many on a hill and they were bunched together. I figured half the seeds probably wouldn't go because they were retail. And yeah, there's one little sad guy that's still standing vertical. The rest of them are toast. But even the one that's vertical is still a little yellowy in the leaves.
Moment of silence for Webb's cucumbers.
But then I saved the good news for last. My tomatoes that I thought were completely dead because they were what? The ones that are one and done? Determinate. Kevin walked me through cutting them back, and it was basically just like a stick coming out of the ground at that point, and now they're back in full bloom, and it looks like I'm going to get 5 or 6 more bunches of tomatoes.
That is good news. And you still have time, because I know where you live. You still have time to get some more cucumber seeds in the ground and make it happen. And if you wait like another week as it cools down, you could plant some lettuce seeds and, you know, make yourself a salad. You got lettuce, cucumbers, and tomatoes. While I'm talking about that, random thought, since we're talking about salad, lettuce. Next week, we are going to be talking about all the plants that you can hurry up and plant now for the fall. So I usually cover future episodes at the end, but I just want to touch on that now. Going to add Ultra as a speaker. Okay. Sorry for that. Okay. So just a preview. Next week, we will be talking about fall crops. I don't want to hold back until next week everything, because I want to give you time. If you're interested in growing things like lettuce or peas or broccoli or collards or any of those things that are cold tolerant, or spinach, if you don't have seeds, get some seeds. Adding Cowboy. Okay, Cowboy's got a mic. Yeah, I want to give you plenty of opportunities. So I didn't want to hold this back and not say anything. And the next week you'd be like, oh, I just lost another week where I could have done something. So just to, again, to name a few: lettuce, spinach, peas, broccoli, kale, if you actually eat that. Most don't, but okay. Anyways, you see my bias coming through again. Not a fan of kale, but Brussels sprouts. Some of this stuff, if you're up where I am in New England, you might not have time to get this all done. But in most cases, most everything I'm going to talk about next week, we've got a chance, even here in the Northeast, to get at least a small harvest of some smaller plants, depending upon what the weather does. If you are further south, Carolinas, Virginia, Florida, you've got time to make this happen. You've got like a whole fall season of gardening ahead of you. So you're always going to be better off if you can start some seeds, even if you don't know exactly what you're going to do with them yet. So at least if you're interested in doing that, don't wait till next week when we're talking about it. See if there's still some retailers out there that have some seeds available. Check your seed collection that you have, hopefully in an airtight glass container at 32 to 41 degrees, like we've talked about. And that way you can get some started. All of these plants are going to do better as seedlings than direct seeding in the ground, especially if you're further north like me. So get on that. I might even post the list of plants that we'll be discussing under this. So when you go back to the thread for this space notification, you'll see the list of plants. You can say, yes, I want to get some seeds. I want to do this, or no, that tastes like dirt. I don't want to do that one. And you can go down the list, and that way you get a head start. So next Tuesday night when we're talking about it, you're already geared up and ready to go. And then 2 weeks from now, obviously, we'll be on the letter C, because every other week we're going to do a new letter. So we've got bunch of people on stage for Gardeners Community, and we do have one hand up. So I am going to go to Lindsay. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Hey, Kev. Hey, Webb. You just answered my question on what to plan up coming next. I'm in Carolinas, so time frame wise, how late can I plant the fall vegetables
So,
that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so there may be some others here that can answer that a little more directly. I've got all the notes on it for next week. I would say for most crops, you've got some time, and that's TIME, not THYME. You've got some time to get ready. I would say this though: anything that you know is a fall crop that will take it cool, again, that's all your relatives of the broccoli family, or beets, collards, Swiss chard, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, kale, Brussels sprouts. Peas like it cool, not as cool as the other ones. Mustard greens, any of those, I would at least try to get them seeded in packs or pots right away. Now, you've got more time than me. You've probably got a whole nother month than I do. I'm under the gun to get something started on those. And some of these plants, as we'll talk about next week, will take it down to like 26 degrees. Another one will take it down to 20 degrees, but they're not going to thrive at that. They'll just tolerate it. So get those seeds out, start some packs or some pots, and we'll talk about what you're looking at for finish times and all of
And
that.
quick, weird question. Since I'm in the medical community and I'm dealing with the vaccine-injured people, we've been utilizing THC and CBD. Have you or will you have any spaces on how to grow that? Or any knowledge?
Okay. I do not have any specific knowledge on that subject. And I don't want to be too political about this, but let me say this. As I know, some states have loosened their regulations on that, and we now have, pot shops on every corner. I don't believe the federal government has. So I would need to do two things. Number one, I would want to get together with my team and see if that is something that they are comfortable discussing under the Punchbowl Network brand. And I would need to bring in some people, and I know a few people who have knowledge on that subject.
Perfect. And if you guys couldn't do it under here, you could always do it under my space. I would be glad to host you.
And I could probably talk offline with you.
Okay.
And because I know some people that have some experience in that, and I can talk to them if they want to share that.
Perfect.
And so, yeah, it's definitely something that's come up. I mean, even my trade magazines, I work at a wholesale greenhouse, and I actually get subscriptions to trade magazines like Greenhouse Grower and some other ones. And there's like licensed greenhouses that grow pot. And there's actual articles and, cannabis growers this and cannabis. So, I mean, it's out there. It's one of those things that I just want to navigate.
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
carefully.
I understand. Thanks, Kev.
No problem. Go ahead, Cowboy.
You rubber banded, what'd you say?
It seems like we have an AI bot invasion.
Yeah, I thought that was me. I'm breathing a sigh of relief that that's not my connection. Yeah, Cowboy, by all means, if you get your cell signal back, we can try that again. All right. Yeah, just if you think you're in a good spot, just throw up your hand. I'll go right back to you. Cowboy has a lot of good homesteading spaces here on X. I know he, has some spaces with Robin, and there's some others. And I apologize, guys. I try to share all the spaces when I see they're coming up. A lot of times I'm working during the day and can't always attend the spaces, but I appreciate the support that you've shown me in sharing out my space, and I try to do the same for you guys. And I think we've got a nice little alliance going. So I'm going to get Robin a microphone. We'll go to Cowboy and then over to Robin. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, sorry about that. I was up at the chicken coop putting ducks, geese, and chickens away for the night. So even if I didn't have a bad sale, it would have been super noisy. So awesome space. Thank you for hosting it, Kevin. Yeah, we do a homesteading space on Mondays at 12:30 Eastern time, Fridays at 10:30 Eastern time, and Wednesdays at 8:30, 9 o'clock ish. Trying to nail down that time. We've done it for 2 or 3 weeks now. But it's a homesteading space, but we really try to focus on educating people and empowering people to start securing food sovereignty. Growing your own food, learning to forage for food and that kind of thing. So yeah, we'd love to have anyone come in and listen and participate. And I appreciate the opportunity, Kevin. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cowboy. And if you or Robin or any of the other hosts actually want to post any links to those spaces, or even the previous ones, if you want to post a link to that up in the upper deck, please feel free to do that. I do have that graphic up there, which is great, and I'm glad Refill Madness made that. But sometimes, getting those other links out there that have the ats for all the hosts, which I don't think is necessarily in that post. I'd have to go back and look. But yeah, feel free. If you're a speaker, you have access. So please do that. Go ahead, Robin.
Hey, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I think it was Lindsay that was asking about the North Carolina, what to, what she can grow and how to grow it. So there's a man on YouTube. His name is Millennial Gardener, and he lives in our growing zone. And I've learned a lot from him. I can put a link to his channel in the purple pill. But what he was recommending is that because our climate is so much warmer and a lot of these fall crops will bolt if we plant them direct in the soil now, we should probably start them indoors in a south-facing window in those little pods or under growing lights just to give them a head start. But it all has to be timed with that last frost date. So I'm still trying to figure all this out myself because I'm only a third year grower. So I will also put a link to this website called Garden 8, GardenAte.com. It's really awesome. They take the time. I know there's other ones like it, but you can look up by your grow zone what is good for you to start growing now in August and whether or not you should put it, direct seed or transplant, or this or that. But I definitely am going to take his advice and I'm going to do the indoor planting for like the things like broccoli and the things that would bolt if it's too hot outside right now. So anyway, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Robin.
You're welcome. And Kevin, great
Hey,
space.
if I may,
Thank you for having us.
I was just going to say, sorry, Robin. If I may, I was just going to add real quick for people who don't know, bolting means going to flower.
Good. I thought it meant Bolton, like running away.
Yeah, so like a lot of these crops like cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower, the brassicas, they would be prone to bolt in the hot weather. And I think others too. Cowboy, do you know which other ones are more prone to that? Okay, well, anyway, I will leave that information in the comments.
I was waiting to see if Cowboy was going to answer. I know lettuce and spinach will also bolt quite quickly under warm weather. So any of the stuff that likes it cool, once it gets too warm, even if the soil is too warm, there's some. I think it's lettuce. If the soil is above 75 degrees, you'll get like bad germination. So a lot of these like it really cool. If it gets too hot, they say, "Oh, our work is done." They go to seed. What you should know as a side note, whether it's spinach or lettuce or other things, once they bolt, they become very bitter. So spinach and lettuce especially, once you start seeing it grow up instead of out, and it's starting to get those flower stems, those leaves are going to start to turn bitter. Some things like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, as I was doing the research for next week, I found that a light frost will actually enhance their flavor and even sweeten up the Brussels sprouts a little bit if you get a nice light frost on those. So we'll be talking all about that next week.
I'm excited to try Brussels sprouts for the first time this year. I love Brussels sprouts. And also I wanted to just apologize for not deferring to you as you are running the space and you know your stuff as well. So and then what else was like something else I wanted to say. Oh, I'm a big fan of Malabar spinach. I talk about it all the time. You were mentioning that spinaches bolt, and they do, most of them. But there is this one called Malabar spinach. Cowboy's probably laughing because I talk about it all the time. And it's not really considered officially a spinach, but they call it Malabar spinach. It's very popular in Asia, and I can't even get over how hardy it is. It self seeds. It'll come back the next year, and it grows these tentacles and these beautiful, big, thick green leaves, and has tons of nutrients. And it has weathered the summer very well. In fact, it loves the warm climate. It'll be interesting to see how this year how it will grow, how it will keep through the colder weather. I'll have to keep you posted on that. But yeah, so I can also post some information on that in the comments. But I highly recommend that. I put some in a stir fry the other day. It was delicious.
Sounds good. And yeah, don't worry about deferring to me. That was totally fine. Animus, dog, what's up?
Hey, so I just wanted to comment. Sorry, I'm really, really tired. I had a long day. But so if I sound boring, that's why. So I just kind of want to comment on the boxwoods a little bit. One, I'm totally bored of them. Plant something a little bit more exotic than a boxwood. Everybody has them. But if you are insistent on planting them, don't plant them near a driveway or sidewalk that gets salted. Kind of elevate them up a little bit so they have good drainage. And get some neem or horticultural oil, and you're going to spray them regularly throughout the season because they are prone to getting things like leaf miner, facilids on the new growth. Oh, and be careful to not overwater them. So if your boxwoods are turning orange, it's because there's a drainage issue or you're watering like a maniac. And basically, yeah, you're saturating their roots with, and they're not getting enough oxygen, and root rot's happening. Just FYI, I see that all the time. So, but the boxwoods. It's been a long day for me. I've been dealing with a lot of particularly pine bark beetle issues today, which is kind of a pain because I got customers that don't want to pay for the proper treatment. So I was trunk washing today instead of actually doing an appropriate treatment to address their systemic issues. So pine bark beetle bores inside of the trees, kind of like a little drill, and then they chew and munch on the Cambrian layers of trees, which is the living tissue that is the xylem and phloem. That basically, the water goes up and the enzymes go down. Plant material. So Oh, sorry. Been a long day. I'm losing my train of thought. If you have any tree questions, I'm really good at that, though. I'm gonna have it there.
So if you have any tree questions or want to share your gardening ups and downs, we are in Gardener's Community. That's our section between the presentation and the trivia, which is coming up. So make sure you grab a microphone if you have the ability to jump into the fun. We will have 21 questions tonight for episode 21. And previous winners actually have been generously provided a Punchbowl cookbook from my wonderful co-host Webmeister. So we'll see. Winner may get that this evening. Quiet group. I guess we're all. Go ahead, Web.
How many ounces of tequila do I add for 64 ounces of margarita?
We need a bartender. Any bartenders in the room?
How drunk do you want to get?
Not as bad as I am. I'm trying to thin it out a little bit.
Oh, add more ice.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, don't get my co-host too inebriated because we still got a whole segment of show left to do. But on that note, I should have actually brought up agave last week, 2 weeks ago when we were talking about A's, because agave is where they get tequila from. So, side note for those of you who didn't know that. And gin is made from juniper berries, but we're not on J tonight, so we'll leave it at that. Go ahead, Doug.
I'm going to say technically gin, when they do the distilling process, the alcohol flows through juniper branches before it's collected, and then gives it the flavor. It's actually pretty cool. So it's in its vapor form when it goes to the junipers, the alcohol. So it's pretty cool.
If you don't mind a little bit of risque humor, Ryan Reynolds has a great video on YouTube about his gin company and how they make gin. And it's very funny how the juniper berries are gently squirted with the tears of somebody, and then they put the berries in a burlap sack and then beat them as they play Sarah McLachlan or something. I don't know. You'll have to watch the whole video. It's funny. But Ryan Reynolds, I think it's trying to think of the name, Airport Gin or Airplane. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you go down that rabbit hole later, the first video they did was he and Hugh Jackman are really close friends, so they agreed to do like a video promo for the other one's brand, and it's hilarious. Worth a Google after the garden space.
Yeah, and the funny ending is like proudly American, now owned by a Canadian. Go ahead, Steph.
Yeah. How are you guys doing tonight? I have great. I have tall tomato plants that are growing like stick figures, if you know what I mean. They're not, I don't know. We've had weird weather. I guess everybody else has too. It's just a lot of rain. I mean, we had a pretty crappy spring. Just rain and summer, but right now we're in the heat wave. So I know that I have to hand water. They're in pots. So I get out my 2-gallon pitcher. I have 6 large containers. So I start off with the one and I give them each a dash because I notice that if I pour a lot at once, it just runs out the bottom. But I do that every morning. I get up early anyway, so the sun's coming up. I have all the ducks come up. They see me every morning, so I have to feed them. But I give them a lot of water, and I don't know, I've been doing that every day, and I sometimes feel like I'm giving too much. And they have a lot of buds, but nothing's happening. So is that the pollination? Yeah, I'm just kind of I'm getting tomatoes here and there, not like I have in previous years, and I just don't know what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. So I can tell you that I've been suffering similar results on my tomatoes. I've got some cherry tomatoes that are about 7 feet, maybe 8 feet tall, but they're thin and they're weak. And that is mostly due to the amount of like just constant rain we keep getting and the heat. When you have lots of water and lots of heat, these warm, heat loving plants just like to sprout up like weeds. Problem is, when they grow so fast like that, because of all the water and the heat, they don't have time to really thicken up. So you'll notice if we have summers that are a little cooler and a little drier, plants will grow slower and they'll be more stocky. What I would recommend, tomatoes love water. It would be very hard to overwater a tomato. The problem is you need to get more fertilizer on there. I know there's there's conflicting opinions on fertilizers, but get some kind of fertilizer on those tomatoes. I would recommend, even at half strength, if you're using a water soluble fertilizer, fertilize every time you water. If you're letting them dry down in between, maybe regular clear water, and then the next time do a full strength with the fertilizer. Problem with over fertilizing tomatoes is that's almost going to be counterproductive. They're going to want to keep throwing out vegetative growth. But I would say, given the weather that most of us have had, getting some feed on there with the fertilizer is going to help thicken them up. There's been other, I know Ultra was having issues down where she is with her tomatoes not producing. Sometimes it can be excessive heat. So that's certainly something to consider. But it's just been a weird year. I mean, I've been at this for quite a few years, and this is probably the worst year I've had gardening. Go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, but I have a lot of buds, and they just don't seem to go anywhere. Now, I don't know if they require pollination or what. I don't have too many birds. I have a lot of, oh, I have hummingbird feeders too, and I can't figure out how to keep those orange wasps away. But yeah, the tomatoes are frustrating. I have all kinds of flowers and nothing happens.
Well, we don't like wasps when they're stinging, but wasps are pollinators. So I would leave it to the bugs. They will need to be pollinated to do their thing. But yeah, I mean, so it could be a pollination issue, could be the weird weather. I would not worry until you see buds actually falling off and not turning into anything. If the buds are there, if the flowers are there, they might just be slow in forming their fruit, because basically the tomato is just that little tiny ovary underneath that flower. So that will swell up and become your tomato when it's ready, after it's been pollinated and it's ready to do its thing. So keep doing what you're doing with getting water on them every day, but make sure you get some fertilizer on there. And hopefully, as things cool down and maybe we don't have rain every other day, they'll start to do their thing. Even up here in the Northeast, I've got, a good solid month ahead of me where these tomatoes will still be throwing out, tomato plants will be throwing out tomatoes, and they'll actually go up till frost. So you got some time. Just keep taking care of them, and we'll pray for your tomatoes. Hopefully things turn around, they start throwing some stuff up. Go ahead, Doug.
Okay, so I kind of wanted to talk about the fertilization. Like, you just can't use any fertilizer. You actually have to know what you're putting on your soils. If you want to do the soil test and stuff like that, go ahead. But in your situation, since you're talking about a fruiting plant, I would recommend a low nitrogen, high potassium, and high phosphorus fertilizer. That will help significantly, not only with root development, but also with fruit growth. If you're having structural difficulties with your tomato plants, try a fertilizer that has some potassium to give to it. Not potassium, calcium. That'll help to the structural rigidity of the plant. So, I mean, fertilizing is complicated. I never recommend to anybody just saying putting fertilizer on your plants. Everything is, nutrient deficient in a certain way, especially depending on your soil pH. That can throw everything off because then your plant just can't even absorb, certain micronutrients just based on the soil pH. Hello. So, just saying put fertilizer on it is not that simple if you want to get real nerdy like I do. So there's a few suggestions, but you have to understand what soil loam you have and investigate that. Like when you have lots of rain, your soil is going to get more basic, actually. Well, depending on where you're at, but I assume you have calcium oxide in your soil, which is extremely stable, and the water helps bring that out and raises up the pH levels, making your soil more alkaline. So, when you deal with living matter, nothing's super simple. You got to play everything on a day-by-day basis and kind of experiment. So, kind of like Kevin said, that you still got buds, so don't worry, you got flowers. So the plant's alive, so you're doing good. You didn't water them to death like a lot of my clients do. So you're in a good case with that. But yeah, do a little bit of research on fertilizers. I think there's a car accident near me. But I would highly recommend, no matter what, like a good 29, 26 fertilizer for your tomatoes. This is not something you want to do regularly because that's a super high amount, but you put that in your soil and you're good for like 3 months. 29, 26, sorry. And your plants will be growing fruit like crazy. But also look into also biostimulants. Mycorrhizae is like a must for almost any plant that is suitable for it. If you have a acidophil plant like a holly or acid-loving plant, sorry, you got to make sure that the appropriate pH of your fertilizer is there. Otherwise, that's going to waste. So soil pH is really important to certain plants. So like, if you like hollies and you like annuals, make sure you're planting annuals that also like a low pH and your soil is appropriate to that. So.
Okay, I've never heard of that type of. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's someone raising their hand. I didn't realize it. I just wanted to say I hadn't heard of that type of soil before. Fertilizer. I didn't know it came that high. That there was one with a value that high. So I'll have to check that out. What about bone meal? Is that good for the tomatoes? Do you think that's a
Doug, any opinion on bone meal?
So I did start the season by sprinkling the roots of my tomatoes in the bone meal, and I think that they're doing better this year than most. But I'm just curious as to what you would recommend for this, or what you would recommend for. I'm at the very end of the season, and they're kind of not looking so good.
Yeah, we'll see if we get him back. I mean, I have heard good things about bone meal. I try to be as natural as possible. I don't spray all sorts of insecticides or fungicides in my garden, but I am a little bit more chemical than I know some others in the homesteading community. I do use the water soluble fertilizers, and I will sometimes use the slow release pelletized stuff. And I think we have Dog back. So, Dog, if you want to address the bone meal.
Yeah, where I get cut off at, I'm kind of walking through a park right now. So bone meal is a very good product. It is high in phosphorus and potassium. Calcium, not potassium. High in phosphorus and calcium. It is a really good source of the two. So I do recommend it, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, plants can't get too much phosphorus. Obviously, it's frowned upon environmentally because of the runoff and it leads to algae blooms. But in our cells, our energy transportation device is adenosine triphosphate, and its derivatives. So phosphorus is extraordinarily important to all plants. You really can't overdo it. Plus, it stimulates plant root growth. And if you get phosphites in the other form, it actually has disease suppressant qualities. It is actually very important to the plant's immune system. So, phosphorus is an amazing tool on, disease suppression and root growth. And if you have a healthy root system, you have a healthy plant. So,
Thank you.
The only caveat I would say to pouring tons of phosphorus on your plants is if you have hydrangeas that you want to turn blue, do not overload them with phosphorus because the phosphorus will bind with aluminum, and hydrangeas do need aluminum to have that chemical reaction with the anthocyanins and the sepals to make your hydrangeas blue instead of purple or pink. So I would just throw that in. So I don't
wait, I've experienced quite the opposite. I may have used buffer solutions in there and with phosphates, but no, I've fertilized with a really high phosphorus fertilizer before, and I've gotten blue hydrangeas instead of the pink or the whites. So I kind of disagree with that.
So it's like a vaccine for plants.
I fucking hate that word. Shut up, Yellow. We're not using the word vaccine when treating plants, period, because there's actually science behind with what we're doing. All right? Nip that in the bud.
Well, I won't get into a big debate over the bluing of hydrangeas, but I will say this. If you're growing a variety like Nico Blue that is pretty much going to be blue no matter what, you might be able to load it up with phosphorus and it might help you get some big, beautiful blooms. If you're growing varieties like Matilda Gutch's Blue, like I used to grow tens of thousands of in a greenhouse, if you put too much phosphorus in there, you can pour aluminum sulfate on it all day and you're going to be pink or purple. That's my experience, but who knows, maybe with trying
that makes sense, actually.
It'll
that makes sense.
Do something different.
Because that reacts to the pH overall. That does make sense. So if you have an acidic soil, then you're going to have blue blooms. So that does make sense. That will bind them up. But if the soil is still acidic, and you're dumping aluminum because your soil is basic, sounds like the problem you ran into. It does make sense.
Okay, so with that, I'm gonna mute you, Dog, just because I can't hear myself. There we go. Yeah, I know you're walking your dog. When there's a lot of peripheral noise, I lose my train of thought, which is not good at this time of night because we're about to start trivia. So if you don't have a mic, make sure you grab one now, because we got 21 questions to get through, and we've been at this for an hour. So we do want to stroll through our trivia. We know the trivia always goes off the rails, so we want to get that started. So if you got any more questions or comments, by all means, throw up your hands. Otherwise, get those microphones, get on board, get on the stage, and get ready for trivia. How's those margaritas coming along, Webb?
They're disappearing quickly.
Okay, so that is my
Kevin, I'm
cue.
on beer number 7.
Nice, everybody. Oh, here goes. I almost regret saying this. Dog?
Can I request that Webb takes a shot of tequila straight?
Well, when we, are broadcasting on that other platform with the super chat, then you can probably make those requests, and for the right amount of money, I bet Webb will do most things. But tonight, you'll just have to take his word for it that he is very hydrated.
Yeah, $20 is $20.
Did you just call Webb a prostitute and Webb just said he is?
That it could have been interpreted that way. It's not exactly what I said. Okay. We are like off the rails already, and we haven't even gotten to question 1. Is everybody who wants to play trivia ready to go? Do you have a microphone? Okay, good. So get ready. Remember the rules. I'm going to go through the rules just because I know some of you have been engaging in some adult beverages. So I want to make sure that you fully understand. After I ask the question, you want to be the first to throw your hand up. I'm going to call on the first hand I see. If I get it wrong, just use the honor system. If you know somebody was before you, just defer, or just, whatever. And then if you get it wrong, I will go to the next one, and we'll keep going until I pull all my hair out and I give you the answer, or somebody gets it right, in which case they may get a cookbook if they get all the points, or just maybe lots of bragging rights. Oh, and we're going to get Ultra back up here. Come on. You can do it. And there we go. Okay, so Ultra is a speaker. Everybody's got a microphone. Here we go for our trivia portion. Question 1. Okay, rewind. Deep breath. Someone who tells lies constantly, or a disease caused by an organism, would be described as what 12-letter word? Ultra.
It's not a 12-letter word. I don't know what you're talking about, but I would have to say Biden.
Close. Dog.
Pathologist or pathology? Okay.
No. Tap for nerd.
What is pathological?
That is correct. Tap for the point. You were close, Dog. You were close. Okay. Question number 2. Episode 13/14, we talked about medicinal plants. What is the genus of lemon balm? Robin?
It's Melissa. I can't even pronounce the last part of it. I think it's a Aficionalis.
Melissa?
It's in the Lemonacea family. I don't even know how to pronounce it. The Lemonacea family.
You were good with Melissa. Melissa is the genus. Yes.
Okay.
So, species not required. You are good. You get the point. Okay. Which takes us to question 3. Considering who named most of the plant genera, and that it's typically parents who name their children, who is most likely Melissa's dad? Hint, it's also most likely Veronica's dad, Acer's dad, Begonia's dad, etc. Tap for nerd.
Carl Linnaeus.
That is correct. Tap has 2 points. Question 4, episode 4. Back in the 18th century, Carl Linnaeus set out to create a naming system for all living organisms. What year did he do this? This was actually mentioned previously in tonight's episode. Webmeister.
2023 minus 312.
I haven't even had margaritas, and I don't even want to do that math. Can you narrow that down for me?
No.
Okay, Robin.
I don't have a specific year, but I think it was in the around the 1750s or 1760s.
You're in the right ballpark. Tap for nerd.
1753.
That is not what I have in my notes. Although, if you're dyslexic, it would make sense. Not saying you are, but you'll understand why when I get to the answer. Dog.
I was taking a complete guess, but 1783. I think it was around there.
We'll take one more guess. Sorry, Dog, that is incorrect. We'll take one more guess from Steph.
1735.
That is correct. At least that's what I've been going by through in all these episodes, and that's why I said Taps was kind of the reverse of that, because he said 1753, but Steph gets a point with 1735. He was 28 years old, at least according to my research.
Systema Natura.
What was that, Tap?
Systema Natura is what he introduced it in.
If you say
Yes,
so.
that was the name of the book.
See, I didn't even know that. So
Systema Natura. I don't even know how to pronounce that one either, but I think it's spelled Naturea or AE, something like that.
all right, well, bonus points for Tap, because I did not even know the name of the book that he wrote. I just knew he ran around the world naming living organisms. Okay.
ChatGPT.
And that, if you know how to use that to your advantage, by all means, everybody fire up their computers. Webmeister.
He also named humans, so it wasn't just plants.
That is correct. He was set out to name all living organisms into kingdom, family, order, and probably a whole bunch of other things that I'm getting wrong. But yes, all the classifications of living organisms. You are.
I'm going to break ground here and say I'm going to name you Kevinus Nelsonius.
I would accept that, or Kevinus Nelsonii would also be an acceptable answer.
What about chemist.comus?
Tap, I don't know why you always insist on doing this to me when I am doing a show. I do not want to pretend I am from New Zealand and that I steal pirated music and stuff, okay? All right, so that was my bad impersonation for those who have never experienced it, but my team is all too familiar with it. But we're going to move right along to question 5, episode 9, propagation. What plant or plant type did I use as an example when talking about leaf cuttings? Dog.
It should have been weed, but it wasn't.
And it wasn't. Webmeister.
Because Bishop's not raising his hand. Hermaphroplant.
Hermaphroplant is incorrect. Robin. Robin.
Succulent.
That would be an acceptable answer because I did say what plant or plant type. They were Echeveria, and that is a type of succulent. So Robin with the point. Moving on to question number 6. Thank you for the ding. You can't forget the ding. Most plants with a genus that are strikingly different. Okay, let me rephrase. Most plants within a genus that are strikingly different fall under a different species. However, there are several plants with the scientific name Brassica oleracea that look nothing like each other. Please name 2 plants that bear this scientific name. Robin.
Cauliflower and cabbage.
That is correct. There we go. I didn't want to start talking till I heard the ding. Yes, cauliflower, broccoli, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. We are going to talk about all of those next week. Go ahead, Webb.
I'm peeling shrimp, so if anybody wants to take over ding duties for me, that would be great.
Okay, and if no one else does it, then when we get the correct answer, I will just go ding. So we'll get the ding. Man, you must love shrimp. I think you peel shrimp like every other night we're talking. But more power to you. Hope you got a good cocktail sauce. Question 7. In episode 20, one of our guests talked about Abelmoscus esculentus, which is the same family as hibiscus, Malvaceae. What edible southern favorite did he mention? Or on episode 21, so that would have been last week. Go ahead, dog.
Collard greens?
No, Webmeister.
Okra?
Okra is correct. Yes, Cowboy brought up okra when we were talking about hibiscus. And I guess you got the ding. You dinged yourself live in a X space. Okay, question 8.
That sounded dirty.
And it was, okay, you know, when I throw in the subtle innuendos, you're just supposed to laugh and move on. You're not supposed to, highlight it like that. Anyways, question 8, episode 10, which was titled Episode X. The space title included pollinator plants, trivia, and what play on words fictional creatures? The correct answer is flutterbees. It was pollinator plants, trivia, and flutterbees was in the title for episode 10. Okay. I'd rather you remember plant stuff than flutterbees anyways, so shake it off. Keep going. Question 9. At the end of episode 15, we talked about repurposed items as containers, and I posted a photo contributed by Amy, better known as Question It. What were the items in that photo that had plants planted in them? Hint, one was yellow and one was red. I saw Webb's hand and it went down.
Yeah, I was thinking gutters, but when you said Amy, I knew I was wrong.
Dog.
I'm just going to take a guess. Laundry detergent containers.
No. Steph.
Was it a wagon and a wheelbarrow?
It was actually 2 wagons. So we will give you the point on that. It was a yellow wagon and a red wagon, which had been repurposed as planters. All right. Question 10, episode 16, July maintenance. I posted a photo titled Pruning, Pinching, and Deadheading with a salvia and 2 types of what? Webmaster.
This is really hard with wet fingers on a phone. Jerry Garcia.
No. Okay, I'm going to give a hint because nobody's even guessing on this. One of the types of, so there was two plants other than salvia. One variety was purple, one variety was green, and I was talking about pinching those. The Latin name for one of them is Ocimum basilicum. Anyone at all? Dog.
So basil is one of them, and since I don't know the other one, I'm just going to say cannabis.
I'm going to see what Robin has to say before I respond to your answer.
I was going to say basil, and then I'll just guess oregano.
Okay, so I apologize. I must have phrased this incorrectly. It was salvia and 2 types of what? Basil is correct. They were both basil.
So, the purple and the green.
Yes.
That's what you were saying. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to throw Robin and Dog a point, although Dog should lose a point for guessing cannabis. But yes, it was purple ruffles and Italian sweet basil. Okay, reset the room. Get ready. Get ready to raise your hands. Episode 17, we talked about staple crops and what other types of plants. I will give you a hint before we go to Webmeister, just in case he doesn't get it. Staple crops, we were talking about vegetables. This other type of plants had nothing to do with vegetables, although some of them are supposedly edible. Webmeister.
Was it microgreens?
Excuse me. It was not. Dog.
Well, I'm just going to assume you gave a shout to trees and said nuts.
Did you say trees and nuts?
Yes.
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. Okay, so this is one that you would have to have been here for the episode and had a really good memory. But we talked about staple crops, and then we talked about shade plants because my friend Leisha, who is actually in the room down at the bottom, was asking about things that she could grow in the shade. So we talked about shade plants in episode 17 after we talked about staple crops. Question 12, a slightly different question than last week. Episode 12, pest and disease prevention. So listen carefully. Powdery mildew is a disease caused by a fungus. Fungus and bacteria are examples of what kind of disease-causing organism? And I'll give you a hint. It is very related to a question that was asked previously. Dog.
Is it a pathogen?
Pathogen is correct.
Woo, woo.
Ding.
Shrimp or peel?
Question 13. Episode X aired while this platform was Twitter. Episode XX aired after the platform changed its name to X. How many X's do I have that live in Texas? Webmeister?
None. They all hang their hat in Tennessee.
That is correct. Actually, the first part is correct. I don't think any of them live in Tennessee, but yes, I have 0 X's in Texas that I know of.
So I mean nothing to you.
Aren't you two still dating, therefore not an ex?
No, we're over.
Just don't leave the space tap. Okay. You guys do this to me on purpose. Okay. Anyways. Behave, all of you. Question 14, episode 1. What type of greenhouse covering causes the most intense shadowing on the crops below in the afternoon? Steph. Go ahead, Steph.
Oh, I'm sorry. Plastic.
Plastic is incorrect. Webmeister.
It's not Walmart plastic, so it must be glass.
Ding! Glass is correct. Yes. So I use this as a trivia question every once in a while, bringing us back to episode 1. Plastic will give you more evenly distributed light because it's diffused. It's not as bright. So when you have glass, it's much brighter and more intense. So it's a higher light intensity, but the quality of light on the crops below can suffer because it causes more intense shadowing. It's not diffused throughout the greenhouse. So any purlins or bars that you have up above will cast a dark shadow with that bright sun coming through the glass. So glass is correct. Thank you, Webmeister. That was 21 episodes ago. Question 15, episode 1. What narrow structure did I recommend for growing lettuce, herbs, succulents, and other low-growing, shallow-rooted plants? Robin.
A vertical planter? A green stalk?
No. You're on the right track, but no. Tap.
The Ridge Wallet.
That is incorrect. Dog.
A trough.
Also known as a
Gutter.
gutter is the word I was looking for. Thank you, Dog. I wanted to just kind of help you along there because I did use the word gutter garden. If you look through the thread of all the shows, you will actually find a photo with lettuce planted in it. So yes, gutter was correct. Question 16, episode 3. What were 3 factors I suggested should be considered when deciding whether to directly sow your seeds in the ground or start them in packs and pots?
Can you read that again?
In episode 3, what were the 3 factors I suggested should be considered when deciding whether to directly sow your seeds in the ground or start them in packs or pots? I lost track of hands. I'm going to go with Robin.
Oh, what grow zone you're in, what time of year it is, and what vegetable you want to grow. Oh, that's probably not the third one. Ugh.
Those are all good things, but they were not specific to episode 3. I'm going to go with Steph and then Tap. Steph.
I'm thinking determining the last frost, the temperature of the soil. I don't know the other one.
Also great things to consider, but not what we talked about in episode 3. Tap for nerd.
Easy. Time to maturity, plant size, and the rage of God.
You were almost on the right track for a little bit there. I'm going to go to Webmeister and then Dog.
The first reason, the second reason, and the third.
Boom.
In some parallel universe, you are 100% correct, but that's not what I was looking for. Dog, can you save us?
Probably not. I was thinking temperature of the plant that you're planting and the moisture.
No. Okay, so again, this is one where you would have had to been here and you would have had to have a good memory. Webb, you already guessed, but if you want to take one more shot before I give the answer, go right
No, I
ahead.
just want to say I'm looking forward to this because I'm plating some late season cukes, and I want to know if I need to go to seedling in a pot or if I want to go right in the ground. So I'm dying to know.
Okay, so the correct answer from episode 3 was time, money, and roots. And
You mean the movie?
No.
This sounds like a Kid Rock song.
So without totally redoing episode 3, basically the discussion was how quick do they germinate? Obviously, if it's something that germinates quickly and grows quickly, you can seed it directly in the ground. It's not going to get lost. Like a lot of times you can plant like squash or cucumbers directly. Beans, I recommended doing directly because transplanting beans, they have very fibrous, sensitive roots. But time, money, and roots. How long is it going to take to mature? Do you need to put it in a pot so it's got time to establish first, or is it just going to get going? What's the root system like? And money. Tomato starts, in my opinion, are worth it versus other plants that grow really quick. You're not gaining anything by, doing that extra step or going to the garden center and buying a 4-inch pot that's already established when certain plants can just plant the seed. It pops up in 5 to 7 days and grows big. You don't need someone else to do that for you. So those were the factors. Webmeister, what do you got?
Robin kind of sort of said time. I think she should get a third of a point.
I will defer to my co-host, and Robin will get a third of a point and also a third of a ding. That'll be a ding. That's a third of a ding.
This isn't fair.
That was inappropriate.
Okay, moving along. We're on question 17 of 21. We can do this. True or false, the best way to store seeds for the future is by putting them in plastic containers with air holes so the seeds can breathe and placing them in a warm, humid location. Steph.
No, that's not right. You want to keep them cold. I store my seeds in an envelope, and sometimes I put them in the refrigerator.
Not right is correct. So yes, false is correct. Steph with the point. Storing them in airtight glass containers at 32 to 41 degrees is preferred, and they will last 5, 10, or more years if kept cold in a dry location. Okay. Question 18, episode 5 was about annuals and perennials. Please define both. Anyone? Tap for nerd.
Welcome to Costco. I love you.
It was between dog and ultra. I'm going to go ladies first on this one.
Oh, I missed you last week, dog. If you want to go, sweetheart, you can take it.
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I even asked where you were at. I'm like, where's our dog at? And
Oh, I forgot I was busy. So sorry.
well, you were missed. You were missed, buddy.
I appreciate it. Thank you. But go ahead.
I'm just throwing this out there. Annuals is something you got to plant every year. Perennials is something that keeps coming back every year. Am I even close?
Yes, and you will get the point. Ding.
I got a point?
You got a point. Yes.
Oh, my God. Please don't take it away from me like you did one other time, because I lied.
You need to behave yourself then. Yes, the short answer is annuals live for 1 year and die, and perennials live for 3 or more years. There are some plants called short-lived perennials, which will kind of crap out after 3 years, but in general, three years or more. Webmeister.
I had changed my mind, but you called on me anyway. So those knockout roses bushes I planted are perennials, right?
Technically, yes, they are perennial shrub.
Because so tiny and pathetic looking right now.
Yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. For those who don't know, and I'm sorry, Webb, to put you on the spot, but I've got to do this. Webb's knockout roses are fine. They look beautiful. But every time one of Webb's new roses has been like open for a week and starts to fade, he thinks the plant is dying. So I've had to walk him through this a couple of times, that when flowers go by, it's okay. The plant is not dying. It's just flowers don't live forever. So if anybody else didn't know that, if the health of your foliage and stems is good, don't freak out when your flowers die. And we do have some hands. So before we go to question 19, I will go to Dog and then Ultra.
So I just want to say, Webb, when your flowers get old, let's talk about the birds and the bees, and they have sex, they produce a baby, and it's going to grow fruit after, so the flower dies so fruit can grow in place of it.
So wait, when things get old, we cut them off? Oh, I got to talk to my doctor.
It's called Florida.
This is devolving quickly, but I will say, yes, in the case of your roses, roses, after they've been pollinated, will make what are called rose hips. And those are just little bulbous fruits on your roses, and people actually eat those or make tea with them. Ultra.
And jams.
Well, I was just going to say that I planted some knockout roses last year, and when I was purchasing them, there was a gentleman in there, and he grows them. He grew them, grows them. I'm assuming he's still growing them. I hope he is. But he said they love to be pruned. Knockout roses love to be pruned, and so that's what I've been doing, and mine are just flourishing. So just a little word of advice. I don't know. That's what I do.
So just make sure you leave a live node below the pruning point. Very important. And clean your shears off after. You should always clean your shears after you prune. So next time you're not, just in case you're not spraying disease, like if you had a canker on your rose and then you go and prune a healthy stem, you might be spreading disease. So always clean your shears and your hand pruners.
All good advice. We're going on to number 19. Covered at the beginning of at least 3 episodes, this is a free and easy way to show your support for a space on X. Sharon.
Oops. Sorry, I didn't have my mic off. Retweeting it, or re-Xing it, or reposting it.
You are correct. Yes, like and repost is a free and easy way to show your support for your spaces on X. And it's not too late if you haven't done it. If you just go down to that little purple oval, looks like a little capsule there. We call it the purple pill. If you tap on that, it'll bring up that big purple space notification. If you like and repost the space, that'll get that out there. So even folks that couldn't join us tonight, they'll be able to listen to the recording and they'll see that you liked it enough to share it. Go ahead, Dog. Go for Dog. Okay, well, dog's paw seems to be stuck in the upright position. So we're going to go on to question 20. We're almost done here. We are just a little bit over an hour and a half, about an hour and 42 minutes in, making good time tonight. Question 20. What is the only space out of 20 episodes that finally crashed after 2 hours? Sharon.
12.
I'm sorry, that is not correct. Tap Nerd.
I will avenge my father.
I'm sure you will, but that is incorrect. Steph.
15.
Also not correct. Webmeister.
I'm going to do the Price is Right and underbid and say 3.
No. So actually, if we're playing Price is Right rules, closest without going over, Sharon would get the point. It was actually episode 13.
I found the answer on Space's dashboard, but it wasn't fair.
Well, see, you're the IT genius, so I was actually surprised that you were avenging your father instead of saying 13 earlier. But anyways. Oh, the paw went down. Okay. So I guess dog is unstuck. Yeah, dog, if you're hearing me, I wasn't calling on you because I called on you and your hand was stuck and you weren't answering. So I started ignoring you. Nothing personal. Okay, this is the last question of the night. Thank you all for hanging in. I know some of these questions can be quite difficult if you haven't been here for 21 episodes. This is a bonus question. If you get caught between the moon and New York City, what is the best you can do? Steph.
Fall in love.
That is correct. We talk about hybridizing plants, and that is crossing plants. And Christopher Cross came to mind, so I decided I would just throw out this totally random question this evening. But yes, if you ever get caught between the moon and New York City, the best that you can do is fall in love. And that is trivia for episode 21. Again, for future spaces coming up next week, we've got things that you want to plant for the fall. I know some of you are further south, so as Robin brought up, in some cases you're going to be planting these in pots and packs and keeping them out of that hot summer sun. Up here in New England, probably not so much. I am running out of time. I can literally hear the clock ticking, almost like Edgar Allan Poe listening to things come out of the floorboards. Yes. And with the sound effects, we have Webmeister. Yeah, so I'm running out of time. I will probably be doing a lot of direct seeding or throwing stuff in packs, but throwing it right outside. It was actually, I believe, 55 degrees this morning at my house. So it's getting a little chilly. I'm hoping we hold out and there's no long frost, but, or no, soon frost, quick frost. Anywho, yes, so that's all coming up next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, 7:30 p.m. Eastern on X Spaces. And again, you can hear us on Rumble, Spotify, and YouTube. And you can always go back and listen to previous recordings. If you've not been here and heard the spiel, let me tell you, if you go to the pinned tweet on my profile and scroll down, you will see a beautiful picture of multicolored violas. If you click on that, that opens up a whole world of opportunities, otherwise known as a thread, to all of the previous episodes. I think episode 1 has finally disappeared. Very sad. X, formerly Twitter, they do end up removing the recordings after so long. So that's actually another awesome reason for us to be on some of the other platforms with the recording, because they will persist. And so you'll be able to go back to those other platforms and replay those. But yeah, most of the episodes, including as far back as I believe episode 2, are in that thread. So you can go and listen to that. 2 weeks from now, we'll be back with ABCs of Plants Installment 3, The C's. And I do have more content for that than I had for tonight. So that one's already going to be a pretty eventful night. Go ahead, Ultra.
I'm sorry, you said you won't be back for 2 weeks?
Don't be spreading nasty rumors. No. In 2 weeks is going to be the ABCs again, but we are here next week. And next week is going to be all those fall veggies and herbs, parsley, cilantro, kale, cabbage, broccoli, Brussels sprouts if you have time. Cauliflower is another one that takes a little bit longer, but you folks a little further south, you got time for this. So like I said, if any of that sounds like something you want to do, try to get those seeds. If you have the seeds already, start those in packs or pots. And then next week, we'll talk about how long you can expect before harvest and all that fun stuff. So with that, unless there's any other questions or comments, I'm going to call it a night. We'll let Webmeister get back to his margaritas. The rest of you should go check out that funny video on YouTube with Ryan Reynolds. A little bit risque, but it's funny. You'll have a good laugh as he beats the snot out of the juniper berries to make his gin. And with that, thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to join Bishop and the Jeffs tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. on Punchbowl Town Square. Go to thepunchbowl.space. TAP has totally redone the website. It's new and improved. It's got all the links and features and all that great stuff. And you can find the link to our Discord community. You can find out about the team. We got something on there about friends of the Punch Bowl. It's all fun stuff. So go to thepunchbowl.space. Find us on Discord. A lot of us right at 11 a.m. I know Webmeister is usually the first to go in there on Discord right after Town Square ends at 11 a.m. Webmeister's sitting in Discord waiting to chat it up with you. So make sure you find him over there. Don't forget to go over to Tap for Nerds profile, click on that locals account, sign up. Whether you do the free or the paid account, it does help boost his account. Go with the paid option. But even if you don't, help boost his account. He's putting out some content there that you'll want to see. Go to my profile. There's stuff to click on there. Yada, yada, yada. Real Jeff Platt's profile. He's got his merch store on there. And that is on our website as well. So if you find yourself lost and you're not on X, go to thepunchbowl.space. You'll find all this great stuff I'm talking about. And I will see you either in the town square when I'm visiting or next week on X, 7:30 p.m. Tuesday night for Punchbowl Network presents the